Today on TQA Weekly, we talk about websites, maps, and robots and how they all work together. This is TQA Weekly. I'm your host, Steve Smith, aka Z-Axis, and yes, you may call me that. And before we get on to the show, I've got some news about my current podcast feeds. So for people who currently subscribe to my current MP4 feed, you'll be happy to know that as of today, the MP4 feed video size is 720 by 400 pixels at a bit rate, or data rate if you prefer, of 2000 kilobits per second. So that's all I changed. That makes the image cleaner. But if you prefer a higher resolution image, I have an actual 720p feed that you can actually subscribe to from my website, tqaweekly.com/subscribe. And it's actually at 720p or 1280 by 720 pixels at a data rate of 6000 kilobits per second. That gives you about the same, if not better, image than that on YouTube. So it's a lot bigger file download, but you also have the option of using the torrent downloader option. As of now, you'll have that file as part of the torrent download from the website. So we're all used to navigating the internet, google.com, bing.com, whatever, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, anywhere you go. You have a visual graphic representation of the website and you navigate through it. Now, here's the thing. Not all websites are made equally. Not all websites are made correctly. And not all websites can be indexed completely as a result. So, if you are a website designer or you have your own website and it's not being fully indexed and using a Google site search and you can't find certain details, that might speak on a navigation. But what happens if it's too much work and you want it fully indexed? Well, you have to learn how to use maps and robots. In our case, we're going to be talking about the robots.txt file, which helps bots do their job by allowing them the ability to scan your web page. And we're going to be using sitemaps and sitemap index that you can incorporate into the robots.txt file that makes it even easier for the bots to actually scan your whole website by telling it where the pages are. Since we know that this is not something that the majority of the users will see, it's still a very useful skill for those who want to optimize their search engine results. But it's not just for your results, it's for the ability for any user to search your website. So more important than anything is going to be the fact that you have content. No content, there's no point having this. So we're going to start from the hardest thing first and finish with the easiest thing last. And this is going to be a lot simpler for all of you to understand by visiting my website and copy and pasting the source code. You'll go to tqaweekly.com/SE2EP48. In the show notes will be the source code for all three types of files. Just make sure you save them as the correctly named file or extension. That way you can actually use them correctly. How about we start with sitemap? So a sitemap does not use an HTML tag, although it does use tags. It starts with a URL set tag, which has an XMLNS value, which is actually a web address of www.sitemapps.org/schemas/sitemap/0.9. Like I said, you can always copy and paste this. You'll put a space down, and then for every single page within a specified folder, you'll open a URL tag, an LOC tag, put one web address in, close the LOC tag, set up a change frequency or change FREQ to either daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or never. Depends on the content of the page, be honest, because if you don't put the correct value, the search engines will do whatever they want on your web page, and that's not what you want. You'll close the change FREQ tag, and then you'll open a priority tag, and it goes anywhere from 0.1 to 1.0. So think of it as going between 10% and 100%. Don't write percent. It's literally 0.1 to 1.0. Landing pages, home pages, informational indexes to all your content to have higher priority than articles, but articles do not share a low priority. They'll have about a medium priority unless it's like breaking news or exclusive, then you put a higher priority on that. Things that have like very little value to your web pages, like the privacy policy and maybe some about pages for some stuff that's not particularly important, may not have any value, so you'll put them lower, closer to the 0.1. But again, this will always depend on the type and quality and the importance of that content in relative to your website. So things that have a higher priority, you give it a higher value. So closer to 1.0. What happens if you put everything to 1.0? Well, the priority tag is nullified and no longer has a value. After this, you will close the URL tag. For each page within a directory, you'll open up another URL tag, put the lock, frequency, and priority, and then close the URL tag. That's within the folder. You have one sitemap per folder and subfolder. So one in the root, one in all your subfolders, and one in each of the subfolders of each subfolder. You can't have one unified sitemap. That's not what they're for. They're for each specific directory. Then you'll have something called a sitemap index. Again, you can always copy and paste them. This one's a little bit more complicated, and I also include an XML version of 1.0 with an encoding of UTF-8. Copy and paste it. It starts off with a sitemap index XMLNS :XSI, and then that's W3 org 2001 and a whole bunch of stuff. But what's more important about that thing is, besides copying and pasting it correctly, is the fact that each of the sitemaps are represented. So you will see it anyway on the screen right now if you're watching the video. You open a sitemap, an LOC or lock tag, enter this time the URL to the sitemap, close the lock, then close the sitemap. And you'll do that for every single sitemap and every single directory you have. That's how all of these sitemaps that you're making in each subfolder work. They only are responsible for the content within the folder they're within. And then this sitemap index puts them all into one file. That way the bot just has to follow the sitemap index to find all the sitemaps. Once you're finished, you close the sitemap index, and that's it. You'll save that as an XML file. So if you want, you can call that sitemapindex.xml. The sitemaps, you can call them sitemap.xml, or you can actually modify them so that you actually know what they are. So if you have something called the contact page and it's within the contact folder, well, you can call it the contact page.xml, and you'll be able to know that that's the actual sitemap for the contact folder. Now, it's all fine and dandy that you have a sitemap index. What can you do with it? Well, without making a robots.txt file, you can use the sitemap index within the webmaster tools of bing.com and google.com and a bunch of other places to actually specify the files you want indexed to Google and Bing and all those places. If you want to get yourself searchable on Yahoo, you go through bing.com, by the way. Not just those two, but all those other thousands of websites, search engines and whatever, that can use the sitemaps to index your website. You'll use the sitemap index to tell them where all the pages are. But what about other agents, other search agents that scan your websites to find the content to make them searchable to their users? Well, you'll use something called the robots.txt file, which will also show up on the screen. You have a user agent, so user-agent : I just put a star, that means universal. I put the word allow : /, which means from the root on, that makes everything searchable. And then I put a sitemap : the address to the master sitemap index, which allows any bot that can actually see the robots.txt file the ability to scan through the sitemap index, find all the sitemaps, and index completely the whole website with very little effort from your part. This file you save as robots with an S .txt. You save it in the root directory. Not necessarily the root directory of your account, but the root directory of your public HTML folder, so that you can actually have it visible to the world. So if your address was abc123.com, the roots.txt file should actually be located at abc123.com/robots.txt. That way any bot can find that specific folder. While we're already on the note of XML, next week I'll teach you how to make your own RSS feed for articles and some best practices as well. So how to handle HTML within these feeds. Remember to like this episode if you're interested in today's topic, share if you think someone else could benefit from this topic, and subscribe if you want to learn more. For more show notes of this episode and others, for more information on other ways to subscribe to our show, to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and how to participate by submitting your questions, comments, suggestions, and stories, head over to TQAweekly.com. Stay safe and online, and have a great day. Goodbye.